During the Punic Wars, Hannibal Barca led the Carthaginian army across the Straits of Gibraltar with elephants and then across the Alps down into Italy, and they nearly sacked Rome. He's considered the greatest tactician general of the ancient world. And this is who Eugen Henley, aka Big U, what name he chose to take on in his Muslim life, Hannibal. And he talks about it in a few interviews, and recently LA's newest internet gang sensation, as far as on the internet, OG Gumby, was talking about his experiences with Big U in prison. Now, it's been interesting to see the succession of different guys that get themselves popular from the LA gang world here on the internet. OG Gumby has come in with a different kind of energy. He is not behaving like a clown at the circus. He's a little more aggressive and less goofy. And but OG Gumby, before we get into Big U, go watch, if you're interested in this stuff, go watch the Gumby interviews. His story is one of the most interesting at all and very unique. When he was in his early 20s, he got convicted of some murder, like a robbery murder. He goes to prison. He ends up having a beef. So he's a Hoover. He has a beef with another Hoover, like the Hoover that was the most in charge one at the prison he was at, that was named Devil. I'm not sure which of the Hoover street sets he was from. Devil's alleged to have been booty bandit, to have married a correctional officer. Like, he had a lot of stuff going on. Him and Gumby didn't. It was something about a knife. Somehow Devil wanted to get Gumby, and Devil was extremely dangerous. Gumby hit him in the neck when Devil was cuffed up, took him out. Cuffed up, so he did it in front of the guards, and yet he was able to get a self-defense because Devil was so known to be so dangerous. And Gumby, eventually his case while he was in prison was overturned, and he got a false conviction lawsuit. He got some millions of dollars, so he got out. Not sure, maybe he's been out for a while, maybe 10 years or something. And so Gumby killed one of the most dangerous inmates in the California prison, or at least at the prison he was at, and sat under that life sentence, and then it got overturned and he got paid. So you could say he won in the, or he performed at a high level in the gang system, and he beat the system. So anyways, he was talking about being in whatever prison, and of course the inmates grouped together by race, but then they still have, the Mexican gangs that are beefing on the street, they're supposed to put that aside and just be serenos. And the black gang members that are, like the Hoovers in the neighborhoods, obviously beef, and they're supposed to be together. But, but of course that doesn't always work. And there was some incident where a Hoover was stabbed to death in a different prison. So the Hoovers in the prison where Gumby was at, there really weren't many neighborhoods. There was really, Big U was basically the one available to get their revenge on, and they were going to. And one of the, high up Hoovers, who was a Hoover but would go to Muslim service to some degree, said, hold on, y'all see me, I'm a gang member, but, and I do, I practice Islam to a degree, but Hannibal, Eugen Henley, is a devout Muslim. He's not down with the CRIP neighborhood, like, we're not gonna stab him. He's a Muslim. So Big U was at least for some period of time. Now, remember, he was in from like 94 to 08 or something like that. He was convicted of robbing. Well, they were doing a big drug deal. They were supposed to be buying like 30 bricks, and Big U stuck up the undercover LA County sheriff. So he got like 27 years. In California, you do like your first offense, you do like half your time, or you can. So I think Big U maybe did like 94 to 09 or something like that. So he may have been doing different things at different times there in prison. But the reason I reference his name, Hannibal, I mean, that's how Gumby knew him, as Hannibal in there. And Gumby, now remember, the Hoovers in the neighborhoods don't get along, so Gumby's description may be, a little extra. He's saying, oh, that's basically like PCing up and dropping your flag. And not for me to say I don't know the rules of that, but I do know the street rules in general of that. Really, it's about you do what you want to do, and if someone got a problem with it, they got to enforce it against you. Every city has guys that everybody told, and they're out and about, and they may be slanging, banging, and they got a crew with them, and their crew knows what they did, and what are you gonna do about it is the question. The most antisocial people, why would they follow a street rule? Like, if I'll kill someone for looking at me the wrong way, or kill a stranger for $4,500, why would I not throw you under the bus to keep myself out of prison? The worst people, all you gotta do is read about all the cases. The worst people are the ones that tell, usually, because they don't have any allegiance to anything at all. They don't care about anything. They have no feelings. And if they're extra tough and dangerous, they'll go back to the same environment, because you can talk about them behind their back, but what is somebody gonna do about it? Better pack a lunch. And hey, in the drug world, telling in informants is just part of what's going on. So if you never sold or bought drugs from anyone that told, you ain't gonna be selling and buying too much drugs. Whether it's the crackhead knocking on the door, they're getting hemmed up by the police, catch them with a pipe and some rocks, like, oh well, take this $40 and go make a buy. It's what it is. Anywho, so Big U, Hannibal. The reason I said Hannibal is considered the greatest tactician of war, military leader of the ancient world. Tactics. So Julius Caesar is important. He's considered the father of strategy. Strategy is when you do one act like you're thinking on a grand scale. So Julius Caesar had to subdue Gaul, which is now modern France. And he could easily defeat Gallic armies with his Roman army, but then you're just going around France and fighting people, and it's just kind of endless. So, strategy. What did he do? He cut off, so all the Gallic warriors are on one side of the Seine River or something. They were in one area, and he cut off the river in the winter, so they couldn't cross to where they needed to be able to make it through the winter. And then, so they were all gonna starve or something. I'll have to refresh my memory, but something along those lines. So he thought of an action that would lead to a permanent end. The Gauls all had to basically come to terms and say, okay, we'll submit to Roman control, we'll send tax money, we'll let you come and set up cities and administrate, and then of course they liked Roman civilization, and then they became Romanized, as they say. Hannibal, on the other hand, was the king of tactics. Tactics are during an actual military excursion, what we're going to send these 8 guys over here, and they're going to wait until these guys attack, and then when their attention is diverted, then they'll swing around the back, and then meanwhile, we'll set the forest on fire to cause smoke to blow into the Roman troops so they'll be confused, and then as they get confused, we'll send our cavalry through. So he was brilliant at that. And what does this all have to do with Big U and his name Hannibal? Well, I'm sure he read a lot of books. He knows who. He didn't just randomly pick Hannibal for his... I mean, Hannibal's not a Muslim name. Hannibal was alive before Islam even came into existence. But I guess that was a name he used instead of Big U in his Muslim life. And I have heard Big U say he was calling himself Hannibal. Hannibal the leader. Big U told a story, I think, at Kev Mack of walking up. He was leading like 100 rolling 60s, walking around and do some intimidation there in the area. And then he talked to that's when he met the Nation of Islam guy, whoever the head of the temple was, and then he started his relationship with them. I don't know if he gave himself the name or the Nation of Islam guy gave him the name because he saw he was a leader and had great tactics. Now, Big U was never the leader of the Rolling 60s because there is no leader. He probably had people that listened to him. According to Big U himself in an interview, at this point, the police estimate 5,000 Rolling 60s or tight associates scattered across California. Now, Big U's name first appears in the media a long time ago in a 1992 front page LA Times article, which was, it was one of the, might have been the first article about, no, the Bounty Hunters probably had a whole articles about them because of the early 80 thing with Hawkins, which is, they had a pitched war across Imperial Highway with some business owners. It was crazy. It was on PBS, but that's another story. But there was a 1992 article about the Rolling 60s, and Eugen Henley is referenced as being one of the young, well-known guys. And the article is mainly about the murder of Keith Stone. What was his last name? His nickname was Stone. And then he had a different last name. But Keith Stone was he was a drug dealer, like early 90s. So the Rolling 60s are famous because there's a bunch of infamous front page cases involving them. Almost all of them were the Rolling 60s victimizing other people, from the Little Fee and them killing Kermit Washington's family. They went to do a hit on a girl in a wheelchair, but they read the address wrong, and instead they went like 2 doors down and killed the whole family of a LA-born black football player, Kermit Alexander. Killed his mother and like 3 little children, or 2 children. Loose Cannon's father did an infamous murder where he was supposed to be selling some people some drugs, sold them torn-up phone books instead, tied them up and killed them. He's on death row. If you didn't know, Loose Cannon's father is on death row. I don't know why more people don't know this, or it's not talked about more. I mean, it's interesting. George Brett Williams. Then you had the very tragic Joker and Mumbles situation where, and that's what Eddie Boy's little brother is in for, where an 8-tray killed a Joker, the 8-tray killed Rolling 60s Mumbles in the mid-80s. This was when this was not long after the Little Fee thing. And then Petey Whack, and I guess little Eddie Boy was it? I don't want to say that. That is the case he was in. I don't know. They convicted of killing the mother and little brother of Joker. So this was obviously, these are cases that struck fear in the city. Crips kill innocent family. These were front page articles. Then in 1987, the event that made really the LAPD start to crack down on the gangs because it wasn't just in the black community. In the neighborhood of Westwood, which is a very upscale neighborhood next to Beverly Hills, it's where UCLA is at, and it has a lot of restaurants, movie theaters. It's a place for people to go. In 1987, a rolling 60 was looking for a Mansfield Crip in some dispute about money or something, this prime crack era, and he sees him in Westwood. And this is a street full of, this is like all like young, upscale, white and Asian, and he kills like a 27-year-old Japanese girl, so they threw him under the jail, of course. He eventually got out, but he did 97, 07. Yeah, he did 25 years or something. So Rolling 60's a bunch of, and that caused Daryl Gates, that Operation Hammer, well, that might have been right before that, but they really started cracking down on the gangs there in the late 80s, and the Kira Toshima thing. So a bunch of the most infamous gang crimes were done by the Rolling 60s. The Keith Stone guy was one of the few where they were the victim in an infamous, and that was Big U's kind of mentor. Keith Stone took him and some other guy from the neighborhood who may or may not have been a gang member, went out to Duarte. They had been serving them, I guess, the chronic back before the rest of us all heard about it. And the Do-Rock Crip guys who he'd been dealing with for whatever reason on this run, they probably had messed up the money, the last set of money. They didn't have to pay him. Duarte's maybe, an hour from LA. They kill Stone and the other guy, leave him in the truck in the mountains. And, of course, so to this day, the Rolling 60s and the Do-Rock Crips got problems in the prison, I guess, according to what people say. Big U intimated, he told the story on one of his interviews about the guy, one of the murderers of Stone, came to the prison when he was there. And they had a talk like, he's a Crip, so, whatever happened on the street, you can't do nothing to him. And Big U was like, now, so if you think Big U didn't have power in prison, he like smirked and was like, oh no, the 60s are gonna do what we want to do beyond Crip. And I guess the guy got stabbed 88 times or something. I guess he's alive though. This is per what Big U said on the interview. I'm not. This is what he said. So back to Gumby's assertion that Big U dropped his flag PC. I think Big U is a master of strategy. That's why they called him Hannibal. He made it now. It looks like he's at the end of the road now. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I'm sure he has something he's trying to work, or maybe, his jig is up, like hopefully Donald Trump's is about to be. Because one thing with being a criminal, if you're good at it, you're gonna keep pushing it until it just gets too much and you can't handle it or you make a mistake. So Big U apparently, he got out 09 or something. He got with Nipsey Hussle. He had 15 years of being out here doing, according to the government, criminal activities, and according to some people in the street, criminal activities. So he must have been a master strategist. Was able to stay alive. Supposedly there was graffiti back in the 80s. Instead of writing like Brims or whoever writing Rolling 60 Killer, they would write Big U Killer on the wall. Imagine that. Imagine they don't just write the name of your gang on the wall, they write your name. So he was definitely infamous in the street. He started off infamous for knocking people out, fighting, which is what the essence of LA gang culture is fighting. The murder stuff came in when the drugs, and the Rolling 60s were one of the ones that really make a lot of drug money. They were the bank robberies. So in the 1992 article, And these are some old pictures from the late 80s and early 90s of the Rolling 60s. They were rich Rolling 60s. They're involved in bank robberies like Cowboy. I think he had some bank robberies. And the Rolling 60s neighborhood, pretty interesting. They have like a bunch of different cliques. The Overhills, I've driven all through there. Those are little baby mansions where Big U grew up. The Arlington area. Small houses, working class, seemed okay. It seemed like it probably could have been rough before. It looked all right now. But small houses or medium. Then there's other parts in the 60s that are grimy, rundown apartments, motels, whore motels. It's a big area with the different kind of neighborhood demographics. So each of the cliques probably are a little bit different kind of people to a degree. And then, but if you don't know much about the LA gang stuff, like, and this is why these guys going on YouTube isn't surprising to me. LA gang is not a secret society. You're supposed to tell when they around another gang member, they're supposed to say, I'm such and such so and so, West Side, blah blah blah. Like, you have to you're supposed to be aggressive with other gang members. You're supposed to say, represent the gang. You're supposed to be turned up and aggressive and making a name for yourself, because it's really like some Wild West outlaw type stuff. Like, each guy has to have his own name of he's a knockout artist, he's a shooter. I don't know if people really, they'll be scared of you to a degree because you're in an infamous gang, because they know if they do something to you, they're going to get their revenge. But like, you still, each guy has to handle his own business and make his own reputation. So Big U's name is Hannibal, and him being in prison as a Muslim, smart. He got out in his half, basically probably the minimum time, though it was still a long time. He was doing Rolling 60 stuff in prison, I'm sure, but he was also, when he was gonna get stabbed up, his Muslim status at that point, not to say that they would have successfully done it, but he saved them from even it happening. So a master tactician, listen, guys that are at the top of the food chain, their thinking is different. They're not following any street code or street rules. They following success for themselves. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. They're going to tell you to do one thing, like all that, don't talk to the police, no snitching. That's beneficial to people higher up the food chain. They certainly don't want you giving any information. But if I can create an environment, if I have a criminal thing going on and I got 10 people selling drugs for me, and I've instilled in them, don't say nothing to the police ever, and they really cut like that. If shit all goes sideways, guess who gets to tell on my 10 workers? And guess whose 10 workers won't tell on me? And if you don't think that's how it goes, you need to stay out the streets. You need to stay out the streets anyways, because though some do make it out and some aren't successful, it's not that many. Like, I've come to know some, but not that many. So just thought that'd be interesting. I don't know, there's no update on Big U's case per se right now, but infamous tactician named Hannibal helped grow the Rolling 60s into, sometimes, according to LAPD, the biggest, at least the most active criminally. I mean, like, there's other ones that are, bounty hunters, have a lot of infamous stuff, but they're in a public housing project, tucked away in Watts, like deep in the ghetto. Rolling 60s got some ghetto areas, but they're right next to all the black wealthy areas, Ladera Heights and all that. They're West Side, they probably have access to make more money. They got this brand name. A lot of different kind of people from big rich houses, people from grimy areas. They got some big operation. There's really a bunch of different people just using that same brand name. Big U was one of the ones who was able to use it to his advantage the best, perhaps up until now, and it's gonna cost him his freedom. We shall see. I guess he's running as a Muslim there in the federal thing, but can't blame him. If you listen to these gang members talk about what they do in jail, it seems like they just watch each other, their fellow gang members, to see if they make a mistake so they can assault them. Doesn't seem like, well, if you were a smart tactician like Hannibal, aka Big U, you would definitely pick and choose. I'm gonna be a Crip right now, a Muslim right here, so that I can implement my agenda, or the agenda of me and my couple close comrades. But that's just a thought. So go read the Wikipedia on Hannibal. Put some money on Big U's books. Be sure to subscribe to Loose Cannon's channel, Now Profit American Dope.